We are live, guys. What's up?
Episode two in the books. Pretty
Yep.
excited. We have a guest. Oh gosh, did I put in the wrong link?
No, I don't know if you did or not, but it's all good.
I think I did because Carrie's in here.
It's okay.
What's up, Carrie?
How are you?
I'm good.
Good.
I'm good.
Nice to
Let
meet you,
me
Carrie.
You as well.
Yeah.
let me
Let's
send
see.
you let me send you a different one, or you can be a guest here. I don't really matter.
Yeah. It doesn't
Oh, I don't
matter.
want to be a guest.
All
You
right.
can be an audience, actually. That's what it is. Here, I'll send it to you, Tim. So, before we get started, I wanted to say that after people voting on our social media, that we are going to go with the name called Due Diligence After Dark. And I think that's a pretty cool name.
Yeah, dude. We asked a couple folks, and they're like, "Yeah, this is pretty good." They kind of enjoyed the due diligence after dark. So, and it may not be dark right now, but it will be dark in the wintertime, right? If you give it maybe a month or so, it'll get dark by now, so it'll be
Yep.
perfect. Um, but yeah, no, today's gonna be awesome, guys. We're gonna talk about what Phil and I are probably gonna be focusing on for the rest of the year and in 2026. So we'll talk about three different real estate strategies, right? There's wholesaling, flipping, rentals, and which one is the best, essentially, or what we think is going to be the best. And we'll kind of debate it and kind of talk through different options, right? So we can kind of talk about traditional rentals because that's what most people are learning about now.
Well, before we get into that, like I want to talk about those three different strategies as it pertains to like real estate investing and time as far as cash conversion cycles. I think I heard some Pace before, but wholesaling is today's money, fixing and flipping is tomorrow's money, and rental is forever money. And depending on where you're at in your journey or in your investment cycle, you can either be starting out, which is wholesaling, normally speaking, if you have more time than you have cash, or fixing flipping if you have more cash than you have time. And then rental is basically having a lot of, not a lot, but like a good amount of cash and not enough time per se too as well. Those are my perspective on it. And I kind of resonates with that more because it makes sense in the time that I've been investing. I feel like those different types of investment strategies makes the most sense given your situation or wherever you're at.
Yeah, that makes sense. Like for me, I've kind of went reverse. So a lot of people say like wholesaling is the entry level to real estate because you can actually I'm pretty sure that link is. I think we need to do our YouTube channels.
Yeah.
I think we need to do our YouTube channels. This is what happens when we go live for the second time in a row.
And we don't know what we're doing.
Uh, we don't
Yeah.
know. Hold on one second. Let me send you the new link, okay, Carrie? Cool. But the biggest thing for us is, a lot of people say that wholesaling is the entry to real estate, right? Because you can get
Yeah.
it with zero money down or no money down or whatever. But the biggest thing is, I started with rental properties first because I thought it was like the right thing to do, right? I was doing the Burr method, I was doing creative finance, a lot of lease options. And what I figured out was it wasn't enough to quit my job, right? The $400, $500 a month per property with all that stress, it really wasn't worth it. So I went reverse and did wholesaling. But I would say that a strategy can be whatever you want, just it kind of depends on your life circumstance and what your goals are, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I started with fixing and flipping because I didn't know how to do marketing and sales for the first part of like a year and probably like actually 2 years actually. I was just so stupid with marketing and sales. I didn't know how to follow up. I didn't even know what following up was, and I it just never crossed my mind to follow the person after I got a no. I was like, oh, they're not interested forever. Like that's such a not a
Yeah.
smart way of thinking about it. So I just did fixing and flipping. I just bought it from wholesalers. That was like kind of fits my personality type because I'm more of a kind of a hands-on kind of individual. I don't really like to talk to folks per se, but after like learning the game, after like being in fixing flipping, I realized I need to get my own leads. And I think a lot of fix and flippers have that issue where they're dependent on an outside source to generate leads for them. And then eventually they see how much they're paying wholesalers and like, dude, I can make that money for myself versus paying that to a wholesaler. So, I mean, you got to choose your poison and choose your lane. You can't do everything like well. And especially in this particular investment where there's so many niches in real estate investing. And yet, on the top of that, I just feel like you pick a lane and you kind of follow through it all the way through, and you just build that out um, to the best of your ability, and then move on to the next avenue, next real income generating lane per se.
Yeah, because I think like I would probably bracket flipping and wholesaling in the same bracket in terms
Mm,
of like active income,
yeah.
right? And I think a lot of us can talk about a lot of different things when it comes to, what's passive, what's active. But at the end of the day, if your goal is to make enough money to quit your job or find some whatever financial freedom you're looking for, it's going to take you a lot longer doing the single family rental portfolio route, right? Like, well, the traditional way, because now there's so many different ways where there's the co-living and all these different things. But guess what, guys? Here's what a lot of people aren't telling you, or, a lot of coaches or programs are telling you is that is a business. Like, that is not a passive strategy, right? Having 10 co-livings and having 15 people, hanging out in there, you know, that's a lot of work, right? That is a lot of work. So if I were you, right, this is Tim you speaking now. If you were gonna try to make a business out of real estate, I would rather do a flipping or wholesale business, right? And the reason why is, dude, yeah, like cool, $500 a month cash flow, but what if I'm making 10, 20, $30,000 per deal, right? That is worth my time spending creating a business, right?
Yeah. Let me. Sorry, bro. We sent out the wrong link because we're new. So
We're
I'm
noobs.
I'm going to send you a new link on my Instagram. So if you want, I sent you the audience link, run right,
There's no
Tim?
such thing, bro.
They're really okay. All right.
There's no such thing, dude. Gotta route 'em to the YouTube channel, man.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
So we'll route people to the YouTube channel then. Uh,
Carrie's like so glad I wasn't the only one. Yeah, I'm glad you're
yeah.
not the only one either.
Yeah,
So,
yeah, yeah, yeah. So
but
we'll route everybody to the YouTube link. But as I'm
but
doing that,
while
yeah.
we're unscrewing this, anybody out there, do you guys have any questions that you kind of want us to answer while we're doing some technical difficulties? And while you're typing out your questions, I'll kind of continue the monologue, right? Of, if you want to do single family rentals on the portfolio side of the business, right? There is so many different things that you can do in terms of, you know, you can do co-living, assisted livings, right? RV parks, all these different types of asset classes that make way more money than a traditional rental. But remember, those are businesses. You need employees to run those. You need property management that specifically deals with co-living. Assisted livings are a little more advanced because there's elderly people, and you need full-time care in that building. So just something to think about is, a lot of people will say rentals is a passive business, but it really isn't, right? I would say it's semi-passive, even with the property manager, right?
Well, it depends on what kind of rental you kind of go with. If you go with the long-term rental, it's more passive than your mid-term, short-term rentals. But all of that can be kind of a step back if you hire a property manager to address everything. Mr. HS, you are very resilient.
He's persistent, dude.
Persistent, yeah. So, if you can, man, can you jump on the YouTube real quick on the live stream? I'm gonna have to kick you out, not because I don't like you, but because it's just we sent you the wrong link. That's just on my bad.
That's so funny. He said
Yeah,
okay, dude.
thanks.
But the biggest thing too, right, is like I kind of want to hear your thought process on it.
I'm on the rental side of things.
Yeah.
Well, so I mean. For residential, it's like you're dealing with emotional people, residential just in general people. And so with that, you'll have more charged energy with folks where it's like it feels like their house and they're gonna have more emotional attachment to it and are gonna want to demand more things. And so um, and in that particular case, it becomes sort of a more for me it's more difficult situation, but what I would compare it to is commercial, as I'm also in the commercial rental space, and that's way more passive in my opinion than the the emotional residential side of things. Because in a sense, you're just basically for residential, you're dealing with B2C, business to customer, versus B2B on commercial side of things, which is just strictly here are the terms, here are the conditions. This is what you're going to be paying me. And over time, year over year, it's going to increase. And it's a matter of fact. It's not like nobody's emotionally attached to the property. It's just like we're doing straight business here. And if you can afford it, then do it. If not, then we shouldn't be talking. And I really don't get any uh those text messages where they're like, crying for they can't pay the rent or their toilets, backed up or there's like termites in the property. I don't have any of that in the commercial space. It's basically their problem, their business, and they pay for everything, including the utilities, the maintenance, the repairs, except I take care of the structure, like the roof and the foundation, which is really nothing at all. Like the, if
Unless
the
something catastrophic
yeah,
happens.
exactly. In that particular case, we have insurance to back up that the structure in the building. So I feel like uh, single family homes are way more active than it is commercial, but it's under the same umbrella, resident rentals. So that's how I view it. I want to buy more of the commercial side because of how hands off it can be versus the single family, and that's why I'm like selling a little bit of my portfolio out, just so I can get kind of rid of the additional work that I don't really have to do anymore.
Yeah, dude, I'm doing the same thing, right? So anybody that talks to me about single families, I mean, I probably shed maybe 4 or 5 properties in the last year, right? Single families, and I'm trying to sell 6 more, right? So it's not really worth my time in terms of leverage. Like I look at single families as a more leverageable thing, where commercial real estate is way more leverageable. And what do I mean by leverage, right? It's the amount of work and effort that you put into what are you getting out of it on the back end. So in commercial, you can exponentially increase your like paper net worth
Mhm.
overnight. If you're increasing rents, you're making more money, reducing costs, value add, right? You can exponentially increase your net worth. And also most of these commercial properties just generate actual cash flow that can make a difference in your life. And, I have a single family that I converted into a midterm. So if you guys don't know what a midterm rental is, um, it's basically like longer stays, right? Like at least 1 month, 30 days or longer. And I usually have travel nurses in Kentucky that live in there. And I'll tell you the biggest pain in my butt is that midterm rental, dude. It kicks my ass probably like every month where I get and I manage this one myself, so it's kind of my fault, but all my single families are offloaded to a PM, but my midterm. And every single month there is some sort of chaos involving in it. So
Yeah.
cat hair. You got, we saw like, the grass is too long, and I'm like, bro, like this is just not worth the $800 I make a month off this.
Yeah. I get that, man. I have a couple of short-term rentals and it's a lot of work from time to time. And so there's a lot of complaints. There's a lot of people like it's just so crazy how people like are so entitled sometimes. I'm like they see like one little roach or like they freak out. I'm like it's the middle of summer. I'm like, dude, you're like in the city. Like I see roaches in Airbnbs all the time. I just kill it because
Well,
I'm
we're
gonna be a
Asian,
man
bro.
to kill it, right? Right.
We're
I'm not
Asian,
gonna
dude.
complain about it because it's just part of life. I mean, I'm in this business too as well, but like even that, I mean, people go bonkers on it, and I've had guests like lose their freaking mind and request a refund. They get out. I'm like, it wasn't that big of a deal, but all right, yeah, we'll give you your money
Yeah,
back.
you gotta deal with it though.
I know, just it's just so funny to me when I ever have those encounters. I'm like, that person didn't go through anything hard in their life, so I guess they're just
Yeah.
just
So
to complain.
So we just went on like a rant, right? But
Yeah.
like for rentals, but like here's the thing, like I'm not saying rentals are bad. I think rentals are a fantastic tax vehicle
Yeah.
if your goal, and Phil, please correct me if you disagree, but if you are trying to scale, like in terms of amount of income you're making,
Yeah.
single families ain't the play.
It's not. I don't think it is either.
It's
I
not the
don't think.
play.
I mean,
You
it could
know?
be if you're depending on what strategy you're looking for. I think, midterm rentals could be a play and short-term rentals, but long-term rentals, I don't think that's going to be a play. And it requires so many just to make $5,000 a month net.
Yeah, let's just do the math, right? So I love doing this exercise with people that are trying to get started, right? So let's look into perspective of someone just beginning and not investing 10 years ago when it was very easy to buy property, right? Prices were extremely low, interest rates, obviously dropped in 2020. So when they refinance all those cribs, their cash flow just went up like tremendously, and it's a lot different nowadays with interest rates and the market. So if you're a brand new investor and you tell me that your magic freedom number is 10K a month, right? Hey Tim, I want to make 10K a month so I can quit my job. That's $120,000 a year, right? What's the average cash flow for a single family right now? Traditional, that's like what, $300 a month,
Yeah.
right?
Traditional is like probably like three
So
to 400 bucks a month.
so let's do the math, right? 10K divided by 300, you need 33.3 rentals, right? Okay, so you need 33.3 rentals, and that's without any capex. Like a roof blowing up, your pipes blowing up, whatever it is, that is strict cash flow. You need 33 properties. Do you think a beginner is able to do that quick? I mean, they
Probably.
could,
I mean,
right?
they
They
could. I
could.
mean, but it's a rare individual
That's a
in my
rare
opinion.
individual.
Yeah, yeah.
Even me, like when I bought 8 houses in a year with creative finance, half those properties I end up selling, dude. Like they're
Yeah.
just a pain in my butt. So, but I'm not trying to pivot you guys to a different like avenue, but I would just say that think about it this way. Like 33 rentals as a beginner, like that is a gargantuan number. But if you just did one wholesale deal a month or one flip per month, you will make your 10-20K a month. Does
Yeah.
that kind of make sense, I suppose?
Maybe. Maybe. It depends on the person, right? But
It
yeah, I mean
depends on the
like
person.
yeah, but I mean $10,000 a month is pretty substantial to I think it's almost life-changing in my opinion because it obviously will wipe away all of your W-2 income that you would probably make. I mean, I think on average people I don't know what the average is in America. I feel like it's probably in the 40, $50,000 as an average salary, but I could be hallucinating right now, but for the most part I think that's an average salary right down the middle. And that's sorry, Amy. I'm gonna have to kick you out. You can find us on YouTube. Thanks.
Gosh, hold on. Let's just put I'll put my YouTube channel on here because
Yeah, yeah. I don't even know if people can actually see the live chat. There we go.
just put it in there. But yeah, it's just I think though if you're going to I mean, I understand how people look at it like wholesaling as like an entryway because it kind of is, right? You don't need to buy the property. I think that's what scares a lot of people, buying the actual real estate, going to the title company, doing all that stuff. But, and you could do it for free, but we can kind of go into that with the pros and cons. But um, let's talk about flipping first. So obviously we're talking about flipping and wholesaling as like a
Yeah.
active income source, but what's like the cons behind it, bro?
Well, before we jump into that, I want to make one last point.
Yeah.
You know mentioning 33 like plus properties to basically buy and kind of get out of whatever to make yourself free. If you were to look at the other way, where let's just say I have one commercial product that makes me $5,000 a month net, that's just one, right? You just need two of those, which is 33 freaking single family homes, and they're way less to deal with when it comes down to like dealing with single family homes. So to kind of give you guys perspective is like if you just buy two of these like small strip malls, like 3 to 6 units, or it could be just one, you know, storage facility, whatever it is, like whatever asset, commercial asset class is, there's always a like a niche that can make you a lot more money than single family homes. And it also probably takes the same amount of work, honestly. It takes the same amount of work, but except it gets bigger returns. Now you're probably asking yourself, I can't afford that. I can't fund that. Well, if you have a good enough network and if you have a good enough like network in a sense of lenders and people that you can rely on, you can always go to them and partner up with them or ask for a loan, depending on where you're at financially. If you have a good following, I recommend like maybe jumping on fractional and doing it fractionally, like raising money that way, without going through any crazy, legal laws of the SEC. But that's my last 2 cents on that, and then I'll jump into fixing and flipping. So fixing and flipping, it's a whole nother animal and a whole nother beast. This is how I was able to quit my job as a software engineer, was to do fixing and flipping, and it's a lot of work and a lot of, well, you got to know construction first and foremost, and a lot of management involving the contractors, and there is a lot of allocation of money every single week if you're doing construction. So you got to be very aware of you're spending tens, if not 20 and $30,000 a week on construction, depending how many projects you have going on one time. Like today, I spent $10,000 on just labor, writing a check to my contractors for a flip that I'm doing, a rental flip. Excuse me. And it's just been, you just got to be really aware of how you're spending money, how you're budgeting people, or just budgeting in project in general too as well. And then just timeline. And then there's going to be surprises. There's always surprises in fixing and flipping. It's just crazy how many surprises you'll end up
Yeah,
finding and how much you'll go over budget.
yeah. Dude, I I've done everything under the sun, dude. I've done rentals, I've done flips, and I there's a reason why I'm not in the flipping business no more. We bought a house that when we blew open the walls, it was all rotted out, and you can't see that in the inspection. You can't see that in the walkthrough. And we were, 10, 15 grand over the project. But, that's why it's kind of like when you're underwriting flipping, in my opinion, your ability to underwrite is probably one of the most important things
100%.
because, even if you do F up or there's just bad things going on in the house, if you underwrote it correctly and really conservatively, then you kind of save yourself that big loss at the end, right? You're hoping to break even if the project goes bad, right? Um, Okay, so if you're brand new to flipping, what do you think the most important connection to have is? Like for you to get started?
The well, okay, so that's a good question. I think it's multiple things. I would say lenders. Dude, it's a lot actually. The most important connection, a lender. I think a lender is the most important, because that's basically the first major point on whether you can buy a deal or not, right?
Yeah, because they'll underwrite it too.
They'll underwrite the deal too as well. They'll tell you whether you're smoking crack or you're on point, basically.
Yeah.
Straight up.
Yeah. So, okay. So I want to peel back the onion real quick for people that like aren't familiar with like flipping, right? So when he means by lender, we are not talking about a traditional mortgage, right? We are talking about a investor type loan, right? It's usually called hard money if you are talking to a professional company, and their whole business is to lend money to people like us to buy houses for cash. So when you hear people say, "Oh, we'll buy your house cash," it's usually involving some sort of hard money lender to put down X amount of money. So depending on your deal and your experience, they'll give you different levels of how much money they'll put down or they'll want you to put down, right? So an example of this would be if Phil's selling me a house for 100 grand and I go to a hard money lender and they say, we'll fund 80% of your deal with 100% of the rehab. So that's usually how they do it is they tell you to put some skin in the game and then they'll have the rehab budget, right, as a loan as well. So that means I have to put $20,000 down to buy this house. They will loan the 80% down payment and then they will give me the refund or the rehab budget as a loan and I get to draw money out every time, I fix something. So we fix the kitchen, the bathroom, some dude comes out and specs it. writes me a check for how much I'm asking for, right? And usually these loans are super high interest, right? 7 to 12% or whatever it is. These are interest only payments, and that allows people to buy house or buy these flips with little to no money. And that kind of goes into like actually a lot of different strategies too, right? Because it kind of goes into like the burr, it kind of goes into all these other things. But yeah, and basically when someone tells you that they're flipping houses with zero money out of their pocket, it's usually a combination of a hard money lender and a private money lender. So do you want to tell people what a private is?
Yeah, private money lender is like your friend, family that will lend money on the, well, for me, it's the gap. So whatever I'm missing. So let's just say, based on Tim's example, let's say I buy a house on $100,000 and the lender can only lend 70%, but I need, so $70,000 is what he can lend, but I need another maybe 10 to 20 grand to actually get it repaired. And that gap, that 10 to 20 grand, let's say 20 grand in this particular case, 20 grand, I need to fund it somehow. And you can fund it yourself if you have the money to do so, but I don't recommend you do that. But for the sake of example of where zero out of your pocket, you find another lender to come in second lien position, meaning they are after the first lien position, meaning if you were to sell the property, who gets paid out, the order of payout. The first is your hard money lender, and then the second will be your private money lender to fund that $20,000 for so that you can repair the property and get it up to speed so that way you can sell it on the market. And then once you sell it, you pay back the rest of the lenders that you have first and second, and then it's you. You're always last to get paid out in any transaction as a fix and flipper, straight up.
Yep, yep, no, absolutely. Uh, so we got a question here. Let's actually put this up here. So, do you run into private money lenders not wanting to take second lien, and how do you overcome that? Yes, there's
All the
tons
time.
of lenders. Yeah, there's tons
All
of
the
lenders
time.
that don't want to do second. My answer to you is find a different lender, right? That's like the easy way to answer that. Second is your deal good? Like if your deal is solid, and what I mean by solid is means that the property has more equity than how much you're borrowing, right? So if you like one of my houses, I did something really cool with the seller. An actual seller did this. They moved their loan onto another one of my properties that I bought seller finance, right? So I talk about that sometimes. But my house had 300K of equity and it had a mortgage. So the seller moved that onto that property because they had enough equity. So if something bad happened where I couldn't pay them, if I sold that property, I could still pay my mortgage and pay off that lien, right? So first question what I ask you, Carrie, is one, is there enough equity in the house? Is it a safe enough investment? If the answer is yes, you need to go find another lender. Phil, what do you take about that? Simple math,
So,
right?
yeah, on top of that, that's like the first thing that people look into. There is a small group of people that will lend on second. However, they will charge you a buttload of interest. So you
Yeah.
have to have enough equity in order for you to support that. And or if you have a something to collateralize that again. So if you have another property that's a rental that has enough equity in it, again, equity, then they will put a lien on the first property, and then the second property will also put a lien on that just in case you default for whatever reason. Second liens are obviously way more riskier. So let's just say for whatever reason you get abducted by aliens and you can't pay first lien position anymore, then first lien can foreclose on all the positions in that loan, and then second lien position gets screwed over, right? Because on top of that, if first lien position goes to, let's just say, foreclosure, they can add so many fees, so many different types of just BS fees, and they'll just wipe out all the equity that
Yeah.
second had and third or whoever other else is behind them, and they won't get anything, and they're basically out of however how much when they lent over to you.
Yeah,
So
this is actually a really good example of a wholesale deal as well, right? Because you talk to a person that's going through a foreclosure and they have their mortgage is 100 grand, right? And then you find out when you're trying to buy this property cash, right? So you're like, oh great, 100K mortgage, that's a great deal. and then it's an extra 30K of attorney fees, auction fees,
Hmm.
taxes, late payments. And now the property is 140 grand to pay off, and you're like, wow, this is not a deal at all, right? So that's what happens when these houses start getting auctioned off or foreclosed. All these extra fees just eat up that second lien position, and that lender's kind of in a bad spot. But I really like how you talked about cross collateralization, right? That's a huge thing. So Carrie says, right, as a PML, I would not take second lien position. So I was just curious how you overcame that. Definitely think taking another house as collateral is the best avenue. Yeah, absolutely. Right. If you don't have the equity, find another thing in your portfolio that has equity. I personally know a friend. Oh my gosh, what's her name? She does the RV parks.
Uh, it's not
Oh no,
right.
Jill Jensen.
Oh
So
yeah.
so Jill Jensen, if you're a newer investor and you're asking her for money, if you don't have cross collateralization, she won't lend, right? But that's the lender has the power, right?
Yeah.
They ultimately decide what they want to lend on or don't want to lend on.
I mean, I've seen cross collateralization on other things outside of real estate, like such as like cars or maybe something that's more valuable. Maybe I don't know, gold. I'm just kind of like spitballing here, but definitely cars I've seen or some sort of vehicle. Now in second lien position, as a I've done it before as lending on second lien position. I want everything. I want basically personal guarantee, especially personal guarantee. I want a JV agreement. I want a deed of trust, promissory note, and then if I can, I want to be placed on the operating agreement if things were to go to shit. So, for
Yeah, so you take
example,
control, right?
yeah, so take
Yeah.
control. The reason why I do the LLC, the operation agreement, is because I used to do deed in lieu of foreclosure. However, that's still like not really, it still takes time. So me being placed on the LLC as an operating agreement as a last resort is that I can just take over the property without going in through any legal action per se. Right? It's just strictly straight to the point instead of just going through. I have a deed, a lien foreclosure. I can record this, and then I still gotta go through the process, but it takes less time. But
Yeah.
yeah, if you're in a time crunch, let's say you're in second lien position and first is about to like foreclose on you, you got to make payments to that person to stop foreclosure and then take over the property and then obviously get it to where you need to get to.
That makes
Yeah,
sense.
yeah,
Yeah, I've got burned on some lending deals, and I definitely did not do that. So
yeah.
I
I
just
mean,
I just blindly invested, right? And then that's a red flag. Don't do
yeah.
that, right? Don't do that.
I've done the same thing too as well, man. I've
Yeah.
I've had a couple of loans that are still outstanding, and that's just kind of nature of the business. And so, if you guys are thinking about lending to fix and flippers that are in second lien position, I would go against that if you're not seasoned enough, and if you have no way of controlling the property, and if it's like not in your backyard, like that's what I would probably start off
Yeah.
with to tell you guys. Um, I mean,
And we don't have lending as one of the real estate strategies for today,
we don't.
right?
So
Yeah. Wait, which is a whole nother topic. If you want to learn like quick
sorry.
transactional funding or money, go look at Ryan Schroep, right? So Ryan Schroep has a transactional lending group that teaches you how to make money with lending. But there's so many different ways to make money in real estate. And I know we're over time, but I do want to talk about real
Wholesaling.
quick wholesaling, right? Because there's so many different strategies, and I'm not gonna say that wholesaling is the best. Wholesaling is just what I did, and Phil has a really big background in flipping, and we both have rentals, right? So
Yeah.
we're not saying don't buy rentals, but we're saying think about what your goal is, and if your goal is to make active income today, rental properties probably isn't the answer, but you can scale any real estate strategy to the moon. You can buy 600 single families if you really wanted to. You can do 10 deals a month wholesaling or flipping. It just depends on what strategy you want. So, to wrap it all up with wholesaling, I'm not going to tell you what a lot of dudes online tell you and say that wholesaling is zero risk. I think there's a ton of risk going on in wholesale real estate as well. More of like lawsuits and um, getting
Regulation.
regulation, getting
Yeah.
deals under contract and then not closing on it because you weren't honest. I think there's a lot of things that are going on in terms of a brand new investor calling a seller, telling them everything under the sun to get them to sign a contract, and then they can't actually perform in that contract. That's how you kind of get into a wrap. Not a wrap real estate deal, but a wrap as in, you're gonna get in trouble, right? So there was a lady that was doing short sales. She got arrested.
Yeah.
Do you remember her name?
I forget her name, but I know who you're talking about.
Yeah,
I
she
think
had a
I talked to
huge
her.
coaching program.
Yeah, yeah.
Huge, right? So she was a huge influencer, big real estate coaching program teaching you how to do short sales, foreclosures, buy subject to. And she actually got in trouble with the is it FTC? Yeah, Federal Trade
It
Commission.
might have been,
They
yeah.
yeah, they hemmed her up because she was lying to sellers saying, telling the banks that she was going to buy the house and couldn't sell the note, couldn't sell the contract. And all those houses went to auction, anyway, right? So, it's a lot of things that you want to try to avoid, but I would say that wholesaling, if you're going into the entry world of getting started for the first time, I think wholesaling is great, but you need systems, right? It's a business. Same with flipping. To
Yep.
be very good at it, you need systems. You need to track your metrics. You need to follow up with your sellers. You need different marketing channels to be successful, right? And I'm not telling you, you need to spend $20,000 a month on PPC and mail, but you definitely need to spend money to be, more than just doing a deal every other month, right? So if your goal is to consistently do 1 to 2 deals per month, you still need to spend money, right? You need to market, you need to send text messages, you need to hire lawyers and stuff. So there is still money involved when it comes down to it.
Hmm. I think wholesaling is a marketing and sales game. It's like you're
Yeah.
basically doing that. If you like talking to folks, if you like that type of strategy and game, and you like, quick crack hits where you just get making like 10, $15,000 at a time. I mean, this is the game for you guys.
Bro, I'll tell you, it's it's there's nothing more exciting, right,
Yeah.
than getting a grand slam. Now, I do want to tell you though that not every deal you do is going to be a 10, 15, 20K bag, right?
Yeah.
There are deals, I mean, dude, we closed a deal 2 weeks ago. It was $5,000. And
Hmm.
it was 3 months of work, and a lot of people will tell you like, hey, that deal probably wasn't worth it. But at the end of the day, we helped the seller out, right? She was losing her house. We didn't have to pursue this deal, but she wasn't able to sell it, and the hard money lender was going to take it over. And it took us 3 months to help her to the lender and stuff, and we made 5K. But I think the whole point of it is like not every deal is going to be a massive
Yep.
bag. It's going to change your life, right? It's okay to
Yeah.
take singles and doubles.
It is. And I mean, I've done wholesaling, and it's a for me it was a grind, but it's like a very healthy grind because it helps you build skills with communication, marketing, and all that stuff. It's just kind of transition to maybe to the next best thing, whatever that might be for you. But understanding that type of skill and learning that skill on a deeper level, it really makes sense for a lot of other businesses out there, whatever you decide to go through. But to your point, Tim, like systems and processes is what you need in this particular type of business, this niche. And I mean, follow up is definitely huge, as you already know. And actually, the data too. The data is actually very important because you can,
It's everything.
yeah, it's everything, honestly. Because in wholesaling, data is king. Instead of like, yeah, I mean, I can't tell you how much I've called crappy data, and everybody tells me to fuck off. I'm like, okay, I'm like, all right, cool.
Yeah, I mean, like, if you're calling 1,000 phone numbers, right, and all 1,000 records are just old. Okay, so this is my last rant on data, right? Because I talk about data all the time. So
Yeah,
data is there's so many different things that go into data that makes your life easier and more successful in anything off market real estate. So if you're looking at data, the reason why you're not successful is because I talk about this a lot. What is bulk data? Bulk data is data you pull from a software that costs you $99. I'm not going to say what company it is because there's a lot of them, but there are 5 different companies out there that cost you $99 a month, and they give you like 10,000 phone numbers, and it comes included with your package, right? So what is the biggest problem, Phil? What do you think the biggest problem of having 10,000 records that's $99 that's accessible to everybody? What do you think the biggest problem is?
everybody's calling them. Everybody's calling them. Even people that are 18 years old, 17 years, they're calling them. Like it's crazy, and they're getting bombarded, and they're like basically upset. They're gonna like tell you to f off, go kick rocks, go eat, go pound sand. They're gonna tell you all that stuff straight up.
All that, right? And
Yeah,
also, these companies, they're not fresh data. And what do I mean by
we're
that?
not.
These companies have to buy the data from a company from somewhere else. So these companies buy data from somewhere else, and then but it takes them a couple weeks to be able to buy that data, right? Because it's got to go through the internet, it's got to go through all these databases, and then it's publicly accessible for them to buy, and then they resell it to you in $100 package. So I will use this one example to make you understand the two big differences. Number one, if I'm calling a pre-foreclosure and I pull that pre-foreclosure from the city, like the city county record office posted the foreclosure on September 22nd, and I pull that data today, and I call it at 9 a.m., I'll be one of the first 5 dudes that call that data. If you pull that same property from Deal Machine, oh, now I'm saying names. If you pull these properties from these different softwares, it's been 2 weeks. And there are people like us that literally have called that seller 6 times before the first guy who bought that software calls them. That's the difference.
Straight up. I mean, data is king in here, and so if you can get good data, it's game changer. And you'd be surprised at like, oh, you're probably I'm probably the fifth person I called you today. They're like, no, you're the
I didn't
only
even
person that's
know.
called me
Yeah.
today.
Didn't even know my house was going to foreclosure.
Yeah,
I was like, oh.
that's the difference.
Yeah, I'm
Like
like,
that is
oh, okay.
the biggest difference.
Yeah. First time I used a service, right, for county records, I called lease pendants and I was like, yo, I'm so sorry, bro. I know you're getting a lot of phone calls. And the guy was like, bro, what are you talking about? I'm like, yeah, your house is in lease pendants, right? I was like in shock. I was like, what do you mean I'm the first guy? He's like, dude, I think you're a scam. He thought I was a scam because I was the first guy calling him. Yeah. So could be good, could be bad. I don't know. It depends on your strategy, but no,
Yeah.
it's good to be the first guy in the shoot, right?
Yep. 100%. And so, I mean, we didn't like clearly define wholesaling versus fixing and flipping and rentals, but we kind of gave a general idea of what that all entails and our, I guess, our whole experience. So I guess we can sum it up with, I guess, our takeaways on those three different categories. Well, I already said in the first thing, right? Wholesaling is today's money, fixing and flipping is tomorrow, and then rental is forever money. But it really depends on your avatar, in my opinion. If you're more of an extrovert kind of individual and you want to talk to people and you love talking to people, I think wholesaling is for you. If you're more of like an introvert, wants to do hands-on things and just manage a couple of folks, like your contractors, your lenders, and relationships, then fixing and flipping, rentals, it could be either or depending on what you're feeling. Because for midterm and short term, it could be a lot of external or extrovertness, and then the long-term rental can be more of a passive introvert kind of situation. Or if you don't want to do any of that, you can just hire a property manager to do all that for you. So to sum it up, it all depends on your personality type and your risk appetite as well.
Yeah, yeah. I will say I'm biased, right? I love sales, and I think if you are a type of person that likes to grow a business from the ground up, and you like to train people, right? So what I mean that, so like if you don't train somebody in this business in wholesale, you will be calling for the rest of your life. And I don't think anybody wants to do that. So if you are in the business of training people, very good at talent management and talent recruitment and sales, you can dominate this business, right? If you know how to hire people and you know how to train people to be super good at sales, you're going to crush, right? You're going to beat 90% of the people that do it. Because think about the demographics that do wholesale. The people that you see doing wholesale are two different people. They are the 18-year-old kids that have no money and watch, Flip a Rick, right? And they call, driving, and they drive for dollars, okay? If you are driving for dollars, do not join our school community, right? It's just not, we don't want that. It's stupid, right? So, but there's also wholesalers that literally create teams and they dominate, right? They use systems, they use AI, they use technology because they are business owners, right? So if you want to be a business owner and want to train your own people, wholesale is the way to go. So I'm very biased. So Wholesale's dope. So, and I love the freaking quick hits of dopamine too.
Yeah,
So,
it's crack
it's
hits.
yeah, it's crack hits, So, but I think, like I said before in the podcast, is no strategy is the best. I think you have to look at it beyond just the business model. So, like, what do you gain from starting a business like this? So, I think if you're doing wholesale, like Phil said, it's a marketing and sales business, right? And those skills are translatable across all business models. Like, I know how to train sales teams. So, if I wanted to sell life insurance, I probably could, right? I know how to run ads. I know how to cold call. I know how to cold email. And I know how to train people how to talk to people. I can literally start any business I want. So that's something that you guys have to think about.
Yep, I agree. All right. Well, thanks
Cool.
guys for jumping on the live. Appreciate you guys. We are live next week at 6 p.m. Standard Eastern Time on a Tuesday. Make sure you guys like, comment, and subscribe. See you guys on the next one. Peace.
Peace.
Cool. That was good. Oh, it's still live.